Hey guys, and welcome back. Now, before we actually begin trying to do any type of administration on our Linux device, we have to get some basic Linux commands understood and under our belt. These are the types of commands you're going to be using over and over and over again. So to get familiar with these is really going to be beneficial for you. So in order to begin, go to your virtual machine that you should now have created, and we want to go to the Ubuntu virtual machine. And with this open, what you want to do is to go up to the top left hand corner here and then choose Terminal Emulator. And then we can full screen this. Now this is where we're going to be working from. Now if you recall from the previous skill, we talked about how you could remotely log in to the box using something called SSH. This is something that I'm going to do right now just because it is a personal preference and it makes the screen recording look a little bit better. But the point remains is that no matter what we're doing, whether we're working natively on the machine or SSHing into the machine, this is the command line we're going to be working with, the Ubuntu CLI. So with that said, how about we begin exploring the command line then, shall we? Okay, so like I said, I've moved on to my SSH session. This is still the exact same command line that you saw on that virtual machine. Now, one of the most important skills to be able to understand and operate a Linux system is to learn how we can navigate throughout this system. So we basically have to be able to find out whereabouts in the file system we are and how we can move in and out of different positions within this file system. Ultimately, what this nugget is going to do, it's going to really try to cover the very bare bones basics of how we can do these types of tasks. So what I'll do is, if I go to my command line here, the first command we're going to learn is one called pwd. This is very, very important. It's used very often. And what it stands for is print working directory. It basically means show me the directory which I'm in right now. So if I hit enter, it shows me I'm in the home directory and the IPv0 directory, which is my username. So yours should look a little bit different. It should say /home / and then your username. That's because Linux will create this home directory for you depending on that particular username you have created. So this is a really important one and it's used all the time. If you're ever unsure of whereabouts you are within the file system, pwd is going to help you out. So now that we've issued our very first command, what I want to do is to show you two different options that we have available to us, which can pretty much help us out whatever commands we are issuing. So the first is called the man page. This is effectively going to give us a command line manual, which will describe what this command actually does. So if I just say man, and then the name of the command I want to find out about. So we know about pwd, so let's hit enter. And look at this, it gives us a nice little CLI based manual page which describes the command. It says the name is pwd and it's going to print the name of the current or working directory. So we also have a brief description here and it also shows us command line arguments that we can supply to this command. So these are effectively switches we can use to help us understand more about the capabilities of this command. So say for example, if we do pwd-big L, it's going to use pwd from the environment even if it contains what are called symlinks. Now it doesn't actually matter if you don't know what a symlink is quite just yet. Just understand is that we have this option to do -L and it will change the operation of this command. Similarly, we can do -P and that is going to avoid all the symlinks. Now this one here is actually very, very useful and this is the second command which I actually want to tell you about. Pretty much whatever command you're using, you can do --help and you can get more information about that command. So it's pretty similar to the manual page, just a little bit different in some respects, both of which can give you a lot of help. So now we're in this page. If we want to exit, we can press the letter Q to quit, and that takes us back to our command line. So like I say, we can say pwd-help. And this gives us another brief synopsis of what we just saw on the man page. Now, in the case of the pwd command, the help page isn't really giving us any type of extra benefits right now. It's just giving us a shorter synopsis of what the man page did. But very often, with other commands, I think you're going to find that the help option really is quite useful. Okay, so now that we understand what directory we are in, what we now want to do is to find out what are the list of directories within this directory, because ultimately, this is like a little folder structure. You can imagine that you have a home folder, and if you double clicked on it in a Windows machine or a Mac machine, it would take you inside and you would see an IPv0 folder. We now want to see what is inside the IPv0 folder. Now the way we can get a list of all those directories and files within this directory is we can do the command ls. This is for a list. If I do ls and hit enter, this is actually listing all the directories within the IPv0 directory. So if I say man ls, look at this, it tells us that ls is going to list directory contents. And again, we can see here we have all of these different types of arguments. Now notice we actually have two different types of syntax. We can do -a or the equivalent --all. Both of these do the exact same thing. Similarly, if we do -b, that is the equivalent of doing --escape. And if we just press the spacebar, we can scroll on down and we can see even more options available to us. Now, here is one right here, which is a very common one to use. If we use the -l argument, this is going to give us a longer listing format. What exactly does that mean? So if we press Q, this will release us from the man page. And if I do ls and then I try that switch -l, we get a longer listing. So it actually formats the output a little bit differently. We're getting this type of vertical output. But notice here we actually also have a whole bunch of information or additional information. It's telling me, the owner, and we can see this information here, the time and the date. This is not actually today's date or the time right now. This is the date of the last modification. So clearly here we can see ls gives us a shorter version, whereas lsl, we get a longer listing with more information. Now here is the thing, if you also check the help page, you can do ls --help. If we scroll on up, we can see we have this option for -a or --all. This is going to effectively include all files that start with a dot. Now this ultimately means it's going to show what are otherwise hidden files. So what we can do is ls-a. Notice here we're actually seeing all of these hidden files as well. And if we want to see this in a long listing, we can actually combine those switches. We can say ls-l for long listing and -a to show the hidden files. So if I hit enter now, we now get a long listing of the directory showing the hidden files, all neatly displayed on our terminal window. So now we understand how we can actually find out what directory we are in, and we can find out the contents within that directory. Now what if we actually want to move around the directory? If we do an ls, we can see we have, say for example, this documents folder or this downloads folder or pictures or whatever one you want to go into. If you want to change into a particular directory, you can use the command cd and then specify the directory you want to go into. This means change directory. And again, if we actually try to consult the man page, watch this, hit enter. It's saying no manual entry for the cd. However, we can do --help and we can see the information about this on the help page. So basically it's going to change the shell's working directory, and we'll talk a little bit more about what a shell is a little bit later. So for now, what we can do is, if we want to go into the documents folder, we can do cd and then type in documents, and you can actually just tab complete this and now hit enter. Notice here that the actual prompt shows me that I'm in the documents folder. And again, if we wanted to verify this, how would we do so? We would say pwd, and that would show me that the working directory I'm now in is home IPv0 documents. And again, if I wanted to see what is inside this folder, what command could I do? I could do ls once again, and as it transpires, nothing is actually in the documents folder right now. Now, if I wanted to retreat back and move from the documents folder back out into the IPv0 parent folder, the way I can do this is do cd and then a space and then do ... This basically means move back a directory. So if I hit enter now, notice the prompt changes. We're no longer in documents, and I can say pwd, I'm back in IPv0. And then if we want to change into, let's say, maybe the desktop folder, cd desktop, I can do ls, again, nothing inside here, and if I want to retreat back out, I don't say cd ... because that's not going to be allowed. I can do cd space ... Really remember that difference. Now right now, like I say, we are in our home directory. This is going to be the natural default directory for your user creation, or your user account, should I say, that you did create. But we actually do have what is called a root folder. This is going to be at the root of the tree, at the root of the file system, basically. Now the way we can get to this directory, well, pop quiz, what command do you think we're going to be using? That's correct, we're going to be using cd. The question is, what value do we supply to get to the root? It's not going to be root, no such file or directory. We actually say cd and then a /. That is what denotes the root directory. So if I do enter now, very small difference here. Notice that the prompt changed a little bit. See this little sign here? This is known as a tilde sign. And basically, tilde just means your home directory, whereas the / means the actual root of the file system. So clearly here we can actually see that Linux is providing us some information about the change here, even though it's not quite so obvious. We can see the tilde here. That means we're in the home directory, whereas here we were inside the desktop directory, which was inside the home directory. In this case now we are in the root directory. So the key thing here is if I do an ls and get a list from within this directory, things should look a little bit different. So I'll do ls and look at all of these different files we have right here. And again, if we want to see the long list, we can say ls-l. Now if we want to get back to our home directory, we're going to want to go through home, because remember we saw that on our path up here. So the way we can go in here is say cd home, and if I do an ls, we have the IPv0 directory. Let's cd into this, and now we're back to our home directory once again from the root. Now one thing I want to point out, let me just go back a directory, and we'll do an ls. What you have to be careful of is not trying to do cd / IPv0, because that is not going to find the directory, because ultimately what you're saying here is cd into the root and then go into the IPv0 directory. Whereas we know if we go to the root directory, there actually isn't a directory from this vantage point called IPv0. You first have to go into the home directory first. So again, we do cd home, and to get in, it's just cd IPv0. Big difference there. Sometimes catches people out. Now you may end up exploring quite a bit, and you go into, say for example, the root directory once again, and maybe you want to go into some additional folders. Let's maybe jump into one called proc, okay? We do an ls, there's a whole bunch of different things here. Let's go into cd bus, we do an ls, and we can do cd PCI, ls, cd00, and we're just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, one way you can retreat back is you can do cd ... which takes you back a directory, and then ... to go back another directory, and ... to go back yet another directory. If I hit enter, this takes us out of this one, out of this one, and out of this one, so we're now back in proc. But if we wanted to, let's say for example, if we go back into these directories, let's just go deep into the file system, and we'll do PCI. If you wanted to just go straight back to your home directory, you can actually just type the command cd with no supplied argument at all. Just saying cd on its own is automatically going to take you back to your home directory. So if I just hit enter, notice you can see the tilde sign. We're back home, and I can just say ls, and we're back to where we know. So if you ever happen to get lost in the file system, you go a little bit too deep, you can't navigate how to get back, you can just press cd on its own, and it takes you straight back to your home directory. So these are just some of the basic commands which are really going to be used quite a lot throughout this course, and they really are the kind of essential commands that you need to really get familiar with in order to be comfortable with Linux. So this is kind of a little bit of a primer nugget just before we build upon actually exploring the Linux file system. So if these commands are new to you, then just try exploring the file system, use the man page, use the help page, and again, if you get lost, just use that cd command to bring you back home. But for now, that is the basics on the Linux command line interface. We certainly will see a lot more commands as we progress throughout this course. But for now, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.